The first college football playoff poll of the season is out. It looks good for the Big Ten. Our reaction. Plus, why do the Urban Meyer to Michigan State rumors keep bubbling up? I have a theory about that. It's all coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I am Craig Shemon. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We always appreciate it. You know, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get started. We're going to pour over the college football playoff rankings that just came out. Some thoughts on that. Small surprise, not a big surprise. And the latest on Urban Meyer. These stories just keep popping up, him to Michigan State. We're going to dive into that a little bit. We'll have the awards of the week around the Big Ten and our Big Ten power rankings that we do in the middle of each week. Be sure to subscribe down below and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. First thing in the morning, you are good to go. All right. College football playoff rankings are out. Throughout much of the preseason in the AP polls, it's been Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Ohio State 3, Florida State 4. Well, we jumble it up a little bit. Ohio State, the Buckeyes, number 1 in the country, followed by Georgia. Michigan is at 3, and Florida State is at 4. Get into all that and our thoughts on that. And number 5, by the way, the team on the outside looking in is the Washington Huskies and the Oregon Ducks at 6th. Oregon is the first or the highest ranked one-loss team. I mean, Washington, Oregon, they're coming to the Big Ten. Ohio State, Michigan, they're in the Big Ten. Big Ten well represented here. And by the way, Penn State at number 11, they are not out of it. They're 11th with their 7-1 record. They just have their loss to Ohio State. That is it. Bottom line, though, is Ohio State got a ton of credit, as they should have, for their 2 top 10 wins so far. At least the teams were top 10 when they played them. I'm talking about Notre Dame on the road and, of course, more recently against Penn State. Get a lot of credit. You look at Michigan and Georgia, they really haven't played anybody. Georgia has 0 top 25 wins. Their strength of schedule is ranked 100th in the country. By the way, Michigan's strength of schedule, 111. And then Florida State comes in at number 4. Now, the strength of schedule problems for Georgia and Michigan will take care of themselves. Of course, Michigan's got Purdue this weekend, but then they've got Penn State, they've got Maryland. Georgia has got 14th ranked Missouri, 11th ranked Mississippi, and 19th ranked Tennessee all coming up. So that'll all work itself out in due time with no doubt. Florida State, by the way, looking at their schedule at Pitt, they got Miami and North Alabama. So strength of schedule. If they want to look at Washington breathing down their neck, Washington has 3 ranked opponents in the next 3 weeks. Washington could sneak up and get in there instead of Florida State. They've got Southern Cal, who's ranked 24th, Utah at 18, and 16th ranked Oregon State coming up. So if Washington can run the table there, they may move up into the 4 spot. But right now, Washington has that 1 win against Oregon, but they struggled the past couple of weeks against Arizona State and Stanford. So I think the committee took a little bit of a look at that as well. So those are the thoughts. If you're just curious, Texas is 7, Alabama, who's coming on strong, is 8, but they can't put Alabama ahead of Texas because Texas beat them head-to-head earlier this season. At least for now, that's how it shakes out. So those are some of my quick thumbnail thoughts, as that was released on a Halloween night. And obviously, it's every Tuesday at 7 o'clock. They're going to redo them, and we'll always have reaction right here and following the Big Ten teams closely as well. We'll love your thoughts on it as well at Talk Big Ten on Twitter with the number 10. The website, talkbig10, number10.com. Don't forget comments on YouTube as well. Always love to hear from you guys there. All right. Here's the other thing I wanted to talk about tonight. Let's jump in this here or today. Michigan State, they're not going anywhere with any of these polls, but they've lost 6 in a row. Coaching change, Mel Tucker, they got a mess. They might even switch to their third quarterback of the season coming up here. Why do the Urban Meyer to Michigan State rumors just refuse to die? He said publicly that he does not want the job. He doesn't want to coach. He was asked about it after Mel Tucker was fired September 27th. Now, Urban has said some things in the past that weren't exactly true, and something else ends up happening later on. Well, here's what it seems to me. It seems that, first of all, Michigan State is very, very interested. Now, there are various stories that have been floating around about Urban Meyer as Michigan State is making considerations on who to hire to replace Mel Tucker. And some insist that Myer has visited the campus a couple of times. One time 3 weeks ago. Stories keep coming. We got Urban Meyer sightings all the time. We don't know if they're true or not. I think at least one is true. But also it could be just a wish list with people who are tied to Michigan State that have money and they want this to happen and they're trying to make this happen. And that's one of the reasons this story won't go away. There's another possibility. I mean, Urban, look, everybody likes to be courted, right? Maybe Urban's returning to tap dance a little bit. He's continuing the conversation, perhaps. Maybe he's making big, outrageous demands about nil money and facilities and all of this. And maybe Michigan State's just happily going along with it. Urban may not really be interested in coming back, but he might as well throw out the world and the moon out there and see if they bite. Maybe. He's demanding all these sorts of assurances. You got to have a strong business collective for a name, image, and likeness. It's just as essential as a solid recruiting plan. They go hand in hand these days. Maybe that's what he's trying to get. Maybe this is why this is drawing out a little bit. Here's what I believe. I believe absolutely that Michigan State wants to hire Urban Meyer. No question about it. I think everybody who's important over there, they want to have Urban Meyer on their team, right? And they're kicking it around. They're dreaming a little bit, but maybe they're putting a plan together to make it happen no matter what it takes. The Big Ten landscape's about to change. Got some more good teams coming over, and Michigan State's already looking up at Michigan. That bothers them. Ohio State, Penn State, they can't catch them. I mean, right now, Michigan State's kind of at the bottom of the ladder in the Big Ten. Things are not going well. They want to make a big splash and be relevant in football. And while they're interested in Urban, again, I'm still not sure what Urban's interest is. Look, he makes $7 million a year from what I heard, just to sit at that anchor desk on Saturday afternoons at the football stadium and talk about football for a few hours. That's it. As opposed to, all right, what are you going to do? Offer him $10 million a year to work 100 hours a week moving forward? Maybe. I don't know what's important to the guy. Seems like it's a pretty easy life right now, but if you've got that itch, you've got that itch, right? So I'm not sure what he wants to do. And again, he's denied interest publicly several times, including straight up to colleague Brady Quinn, who said, look, I got it from the horse's mouth. Urban does not want to coach. In the meantime, I think that a lot of clickbaiters out there on the internet are keeping this story alive more than it actually is. At least that's what I think right now. Or we're just going to hear soon that Urban Meyer is the next new head coach at Michigan State. Who knows? We'll see. We'll be all over it right here on Locked On Big Ten. Other names that have been bantered about, of course, and we did a whole podcast on this several weeks ago at the end of September, early October. You can go back and look because all of our Locked On Big Ten podcasts are there for your viewing if you want to go back. But Jonathan Smith at Oregon State, Duke's Mike Elko, Iowa State, Matt Campbell. His name comes up for every job. Kansas State's Chris Kleiman. Again, many of these names were mentioned by us. And then there's one other side factor I'll mention real quick. I think Urban Meyer to Michigan State actually helps Jim Harbaugh. You might go, wait a minute. Harbaugh's never beaten Urban Meyer. I know, but Michigan's rolling right now. And Michigan will see Urban Meyer to Michigan State as a threat. You got Urban Meyer at Michigan State. You'll have Ryan Day at Ohio State. Got these other coaches coming in from the Pac-12. Maybe that's a feather in Jim Harbaugh's cap to stay there. Maybe they'll want him to stay. I don't know. We'll see how all that plays out. But I do think that Michigan will see Urban as a threat returning to the Big Ten, obviously going to Michigan State. Love your comments again on Twitter, YouTube, and anywhere else, of course, on our website as well. Love to hear from you. We've got the award winners around the Big Ten, and a funny story regarding the Iowa offensive coordinator situation, plus Ryan Day talking about Craig Shemon. They've got Rutgers coming up next. We will take care of all that in 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. You can score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. It's fun. Why not do it? It is a blast. Everybody's doing it. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. It's winners and losers, no point spreads, money line, straight up. It's $150 if your team wins. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get into the action than now. The app is easy to use, wide range of betting options, including 2-point spreads, money line, straight up, player props, over-unders, everything. I like the over-unders. I think they're easier than the point spreads. High-scoring game, low-scoring game. Told you the Lions were going to cover that 8 against the Raiders at -8 on Monday Night Football. If you had a player prop bet like Jahmyr Gibbs over 70 yards, you had like 157 yards. Thursday Night Football, Tennessee at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, a -3-point favorite. Will Levis is on fire now. This is a debut with the Tennessee Titans. And I don't know what's going on with Kenny Pickett with Pittsburgh. Take the Titans on this one. Anyway, you can do it right now. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the rest of the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So some award winners this week around the Big Ten. Lots of people had great performances we want to mention right here. First of all, sophomore running back Jordan Newman out of Minnesota. Talk about next man up. Guy had I'm going off the top of my head, I think less than 26, 25 carries all season long. Wasn't used very much. He was a third stringer. They've had injuries to their other running backs who were doing very well. He steps in Minnesota's win against Michigan State. 40 carries, 204 yards. By the way, that also, you got to give kudos to the Minnesota offensive line. No matter who's back there at running back, they're producing. That's a good offensive line. Anyway, he got his first 2 career touchdowns in the game. Newman did. And it's the most total yardage for a Minnesota player since Muhammad Ibrahim ran for 263 yards versus Iowa back in 2022. Ibrahim, update on him. He's with the Lions. He was on special teams. He had been injured. He come back. And in the Baltimore game last week, got injured again on the first play they touched the ball. So that's kind of sad. He was a great runner there at Minnesota. Defensive player of the week, junior defensive lineman Aiden Hubbard at Northwestern. Got 3 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, and 5 total tackles in the win over Maryland. And the 3 sacks tied for the single game high by a Big Ten player this year. So good job there. The special teams player of the week, that goes to senior corner Quentin Newsome out of Nebraska. He scored on a 68-yard touchdown on a blocked field goal for his first touchdown of his career. He did it against Purdue. Also recovered a fumble, had 5 tackles. So good job there. And then also, freshman of the week. You've heard this before. Purdue defensive back Dylan Thieneman. 2 forced fumbles. This is against Nebraska. Led the Boilers with 12 tackles. It's his 3rd game with double-digit tackles. He had 7 solo tackles. Did you know that Dylan Thieneman, the freshman at Purdue, leads the Big Ten in solo tackles this year, and he's 2nd in the country? It's pretty good. It's the 3rd time he's won this award this year, freshman of the week. He's an impressive player. He's one of those guys that is all over the field. He's got a nose for the football, and he's going to be something special at Purdue. Got a good one there. So on Fridays, we do Pigskin Picks with lines provided by FanDuel. We just told you about FanDuel. I just found some interesting fun facts. Rutgers is the best team in the league, ATS. That's against the spread. At 6-1-1. Penn State is next at 6-2. Iowa and Michigan are 4-3-1. Remember, Michigan, everybody was complaining, man, they're winning all these games early in the season, but they're not winning by enough. So, yeah, they weren't beating the spread. They weren't covering the spread. At the bottom of the league, Maryland and Minnesota are both 3-5 against the spread, and Purdue and Illinois 1-7 against the spread. You know the old saying, good teams win, great teams cover the spread. Speaking of Rutgers being 6-1-1 against the spread, they are an 18.5-point underdog hosting Ohio State this weekend. They got a big task up ahead. But Buckeyes coach Ryan Day has a lot of respect for Craig Shemon. You remember they used to coach together at Ohio State for a minute. And he expects a pretty tough effort, Ryan Day does. And Day also said on Monday, as we repeated on this podcast regarding the Buckeyes, he said that healthy Trevion Henderson back in the lineup, they look like a completely different team. Totally agree with it. I've been saying that. He's just, look, they're really deep, but they've had a lot of injuries at that depth at running back. And each one brings something to the table, but Trevion Henderson's the best one. And having him back in the lineup for the first time in 3 weeks, just everything just kind of flowed better offensively for the Buckeyes. And you Buckeye fans, love to hear from you on that. I'm sure you'll agree with me on that as well. And then on yesterday's podcast, we spoke briefly. In fact, if you want to go back and watch it again, I always encourage you to go back. If you hit us up today, missed us yesterday, go back, check out yesterday's podcast, Locked On Big Ten, right here on this YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. And we're talking about the Iowa athletic department making the announcement how head coach Kirk Ferentz's son, Brian Ferentz, would not be returning as the team's offensive coordinator next season. We saw that coming. They had the whole special thing with this contract. They had to get 25 points a game and 7 wins. They're going to get the 7 wins, but they're nowhere near getting 25 points a game. One thing about it, though, I thought this was a really weird time to make that announcement. I'm curious. Maybe you Hawkeye fans watching and listening right now know the scoop on that, because I don't know why the interim athletic director or the school president decided to announce that now. Why not wait to the end of the season? Because they then reiterated Brian Ferentz is going to stay on the team this year right through the bowl game is what they said. Why not wait till the end of the year to make the official announcement? I didn't get that. This is a weird time for that. So something must have happened behind the scenes. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe they forced the issue. But the lack of offense has certainly frustrated a lot of Hawkeyes fans these past couple of years. I've heard about it from you guys, no doubt. And there are other frustrations from Hawkeye fans lingering as well, like that fair catch by Cooper DeJean on his game-winning punt return, which should have been a game-winning punt return versus Minnesota a couple weekends ago. So having that as a backdrop, I don't know if a lot of you are watching World Series. I know the World Series have kind of the lowest ratings they've had ever. But the other night in the front row behind home plate was an Iowa fan, had a gold Iowa shirt on, and he was holding up a fan right behind home plate that said, "It isn't a fair catch," or "It wasn't a fair catch." And I agree with you, but they made it to the World Series. I thought it was hilarious. I actually retweeted it. If you want to check it out, at Talk Big Ten, number 10, find me on Twitter, and it's up there right now. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty funny. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. You everydayers, thank you very much. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe down below. Just click it on. Boom, that's it. No other requirement. It's free, and you're part of our Big Ten club. And no matter how you consume this podcast, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten. You'll be doing us a great favor. Also, another programming note, Locked On College Football Kickoff live every Friday on this channel, 11 a.m. live, 11 a.m. Eastern till noon. If you missed the live broadcast, again, it's taped. It's there. You can watch it anytime, but it's kind of cool to check it out live. I'm on there for a couple of minutes as well. And that's every Friday, 11 a.m. So coming up in a minute, I've got our Big Ten power rankings. And by our Big Ten power rankings, I mean mine. We'll see what you think about all of those. That's coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. Passion, drive, and patience. Well, first of all, Big Ten football coaches need a lot of that when they put their team together and try and prepare for a game. But it's also what brings home the winning trophy. It keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, anything you need to make your car look cooler. And whether you're into speed, power, style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts that you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. So it is time to take a look at our power rankings. I know everybody just released the playoff rankings, but we want to know how I rank the Big Ten, right? Power rankings. Let's put it up on the score or on the board here. For those of you only listening on audio, I will be as descriptive as possible as we put it up here on video for everybody to check out. Here we go. No change at the top. Tied for first place, the Michigan Wolverines and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Of course, in case you missed it earlier, the Buckeyes are number one in the college football playoffs polling, and we've got them here tied with Michigan, 1 and 1A, really. Penn State stays at number 3. And I got Wisconsin at number 4. I thought they had a pretty impressive effort defensively against the Buckeyes on their Saturday night game. And other than Rutgers at number 5, then you got Iowa, Nebraska, and Minnesota, 6, 7, and 8. These are all the teams that are tied in the Big Ten West. Wisconsin, Iowa, Nebraska, and Minnesota. So they're all jumbled together in my power rankings. This will shake out. In fact, this is another podcast I can invite you to go back and check out from a day ago. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? We looked at the four-way tie atop of the Big Ten West, and I gave you my opinion. We went through it game by game, how this is going to shake out for first place and to see who's going to go play the winner of the East for the Big Ten championship. Northwestern at number 9. They are 4-4, and they got gotta give them credit, man, for where they are. So they're moving up in the poll. The Maryland Terps are slumping. What is going on, Maryland? You're 5-0. You lost 3 straight, and you got Penn State next. It might very well be 4 straight. That is tough. Here's the best of the rest. Purdue Boilermakers at number 11. I've got the Fighting Illini at 12. I'm going to move the Hoosiers up out of the 14 spot to 13. That was a pretty good effort at Happy Valley against Penn State. That game was tied at 22 with about a minute and a half to go, or 24 with about a minute and a half to go. Give them a little bit a moral victory, perhaps. And then the Michigan State Spartans at last. They've got all sorts of problems. And I don't know what, maybe they got to hire Urban Meyer to fix all of that. So that's what's going on with our power rankings. I hope you enjoy that. Feel free to agree or disagree with all those. Always looking for comments, always going to check them out. I answer most of them, to be honest with you. You can interact with me on Twitter at Talk Big Ten, number 10 at Talk Big Ten, and here on YouTube as well. Don't forget our website. You see the crawl on the bottom. You can check that. We got a bunch of good stuff there for you too. Everything funnels back to the website. It is Talk Big 10. That's the number 10, talkbig10.com. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And right now, I'm going to invite you to check out our friends at the Locked On Sports Today podcast for the latest on everything else going on in sports. In the meantime, have yourself a great day. It's November. The thick of the football season. It's the greatest time of the college football season in November. I'm Craig Shemon for Locked On Big Ten.